My name is Lori Pond, and I've been a photographer for almost my whole life. I started out with a Polaroid Land Camera because I was the photographer for my junior high newspaper. And I learned black and white photography from my dad, who had a makeshift darkroom in his garage. And from there, I just took tons of classes, workshops, you name it, my own personal retreats, and I've been blessed to be offered multiple solo shows all over the country, and I've been a critical mass finalist for 5 times, I forget now, but I'm also exhibiting my work, which is part of this series, which is called the Atlas of Chimerical States. This work all sprang out of 4 classes I took last year at the Reef. If you're not familiar with that building, it used to be the LA Furniture Mart on Broadway, just east of downtown, well, sort of east of downtown. And now it's home to many galleries. Just recently, Rose Gallery put up shop there. Several people from Bergamot are moving over there. So I took these 4 classes. The first one was watergrams, the second one was lumens, then magnetic fluids, and cymatics. And I'll explain what those all are, but they all fall under the umbrella of experimental or alternative photography. Experimental photography is a pretty wide general term for anything that you do differently with your camera besides point and shoot. So it could be motion blur, it could be double exposures, just about anything you can do with your camera to make the image look a little different. So in contrast to experimental photography, but still under that umbrella, is alternative photography. So that includes cyanotypes, lumens. Actually, everything I'm going to be talking about today is considered an alternative photographic method. So what I'd like to do now is to read my artist statement for this body of work, the Atlas of Chimerical States. And the artist statement says, the Atlas of Chimerical States captures chance and impermanence through a series of lumen prints, ferrofluid and magnet images, and photographs of sound waves in water. When wildfires swept through Los Angeles last year, the world outside my door felt overwhelming. Instead of shutting down, I began making lumen prints. I photographed sound waves in water, and I photographed the mixture of ferrofluids, magnets, and food coloring to face that uncertainty. These processes helped me move toward beauty, allowed me to surrender control, and stay present. Shaped by intuition and chance, each of my lumen prints is one of a kind. The images of sound waves and ferrofluids / magnets are not able to be duplicated, so they represent just a scintilla of time. I see this project as part of a larger conversation about making work that responds directly to place, time, and change. Using local plants, water, ferrofluid, magnets, and sunlight, I'm interested in how art can be shaped by the environment, including things we can't control, like wildfires. By working this way, I'm asking what it means to pay close attention to the present moment, accept impermanence, and use what's right in front of me as both subject and material. So the first class, like I said, is the watergrams, and that process involves, here's a little setup of my darkroom. Where my camera is pointing down to is a tray of developing fluid. And what I'm going to do is, in the dark, I put the light sensitive paper in the tray, and I start oscillating the tray, just moving it, either just subtly or wildly or whatever I can do to make it move. Then when I'm happy, I have a flash attached to my camera and I start taking pictures as quickly as I can. But of course, with just one piece of paper in the tray, you can only do it once. So on the right, you see images I've already made, and they all are on black and white paper. And then I fix, stop, fix, all that fun stuff, and then I rinse them forever. So it takes, here's my lovely assistant, Kelly. She tries to help however she can, usually by peeing on the rug, but okay, we'll not talk about that anymore. So here's some examples of watergrams. So you can see I'm, upending the tray a little bit with a little bit of motion. And then I've put this small plastic disc on top of the water, and it's capturing bubbles underneath. So it adds this kind of dimensionality that it lacked with just the water. And here are, let's see, these are two of the same image, but I colorized the one on the right, and you can see they have completely different effects. They almost look like they're completely different photos, but it is from one photo. And here's some early attempts I made. It's, it's just catch as catch can. You never know what's going to come out. Here I dropped some Dawn soap into the water and let it spread out and took a picture that way. Here I had, what's that stuff called? The forest air that you can use to clean things? Dust off? Anyway, I aimed it right in the upper left corner, and so it created these cascades of radiating circles when I forced the air into the water. Here's another original on the left, and then I colorized it on the right. And here it just, I dropped water, soap, whatever would create an indentation or a pattern in the water. And here is the plastic disc again, but I have no idea how those white blobs with the black things, I don't know what those are. I know I added some Himalayan pink salt to the plastic, but I don't know why it would make those black weird shapes show up, but I like it. It's weird. And if you can see in the middle right of the frame, you'll see a circle, and I was using a Pyrex bowl to create a different kind of undulation with the water. And here I just went crazy. Another example of a dust top forced air into the water that creates those waves. And this I call the tree of life. I just love how it looks like a tree when I rotated it this way. So that's watergrams. Don't look at these dates, they don't mean anything. I just had to create presentations for my classes. So this is the lumen technique. And the way I make lumens is I start with a contact print frame that has a piece of glass at the bottom. On top of the glass, I put objects. In this example, you can see I have lemon slices, some reeds, and some wheat, I think. And then on top of that, I put light sensitive paper, and then I close up the frame, flip it over, and expose the whole thing in sunlight for 12 to 24 hours. I figured out that's my sweet spot. So here's a little bit messier of a setup than what you just saw for watergrams. This is very messy, this process. I felt like I was a mad scientist doing this. As you can see, there's stuff everywhere. I would pick stuff up when I would walk my dog. I went to Trader Joe's and bought bouquets of flowers, you know, just anything and everything I used, including squeezing lemon juice onto the images. Here's a setup where I had this giant piece of glass so I could fit 2 images on it. So that sped up the process at, 100% when I could do 2 images instead of 1. And, seeing as how you don't know how it's going to come out until 12 hours later, it's a very slow way to go. You have to be a little bit patient. Here is an example of the objects I've placed on the glass. I've taken the glass off, and now I'm about to remove the objects that were crushed in that contact print frame. And here's another example of the materials being gathered. They won't look anything like that. And here I am exposing the lumens in the sunlight. And here's the part where I scrape everything off. I put lemon juice on there, I put turmeric, cumin, all sorts of herbs and spices. The pomegranate seeds and blueberries that I put on some of the images have their own fluid, and it makes interesting halo effects. So I have to dry off the juice that I used. That it was still it still had condensation on the print, so I had to dry it off. And the next thing I have to do after that is, once the prints are dry, I scan them, and then they become a digital file, and I throw the original in a dark box, and it sits there, because if I take it out, it'll continue developing, because lumens are not fixed. So here's an example of one of the diptychs I made. I used pomegranate seeds and a flower in the middle, and I encircled it with looks like dill. This one you saw in one of my post pictures, and this is lemon slices. And you can see part of the lemon slices are darker. There's like a bluish black arc on some of the pieces. And that comes about when I paint on developer fluid onto the objects. If I wanted to make an area lighter, I would paint fixer. So I experimented with using all kinds of development processes and selective painting. Here's one where I just fell in love with pomegranate seeds and tiny flowers that I ripped off my own plants. Here's what I call a forest gathering. So there's a lot going on here. The kind of light green circle within circles, that's a big hunk of salt that just dissolved. I don't know if I could point it. Yeah, it's underneath a branch, but so that was about an 18-hour exposure. And here I decided to actually fold the paper before I put it out in the sun. And again, I've used developer to paint over the, I believe these are red onion slices that I painted the outsides of each one. I also took saran wrap, and if you can see in the bottom third of the image, you'll see that crinkly stuff going across, and that's saran wrap. when I folded the paper into 4 somewhat equal, not really, parts, I also painted in a little developer to accentuate the lines of the folds. Here's another diptych. I ended up doing diptychs unintentionally. My scanner can only scan up to 8.5 by 11 paper, and I was dealing with paper that was 11 by 14, 16 by 20. So I would have to decide before I scanned them where I was going to make the cut so I could do both sides of the image. So that was something that I was completely unprepared for, but it added a nice element of surprise and surrendering control. This one's pretty self-explanatory. This one has different colors because I use different objects. So depending on the objects and the additional fluids you may drip onto the glass, or the glass, it'll come out with a whole different, beautiful variant of colors. This one, you can see all the crinklies around the corner of the flower and around and even in the background. And that's again saran wrap that I've used. And I painted that with fixer so it would stand out more. And that one's pretty simple. It's just a ranunculus flower and saran wrap. That's about it. This one again, I folded the paper. You can see where the folds are because it's a diamond shape. And it's kind of framing the objects in between. I painted the folds again with developer, and for some reason, to me, it looks like it's bamboo, especially the one going on the left side of the image going down and the one going up. It just reminds me of some bizarre bamboo, blue bamboo. And here, this undulation, I believe, was caused by lemon juice. I decided to make a diptych of all round things I could find. This one I call Floating World because it just reminds me of the Japanese concept of the floating world. And I don't know, it just seems so Japanese to me. Again, on the left panel you can see that huge undulation, and that is coming from developer fluid and lemon juice. I used some cyanotype fluid too, and that's where you're seeing the blue come from, and you've probably seen it on others that have a tad bit of blue in them. This one is called ukiyo-e, and that is the Japanese word for floating world. So we've got some flowers and some lemon slices, some different plants, and again I'm playing with different juices and cyanotype developer and fixer. And this one I call Hope. I just hope things change in our country. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say about politics. So I'll leave you on that note with hope. And now we're on to cymatics. This was a very frustrating class for me, so that's why I said week 118, because I just felt like it was going on forever and ever and ever. Here's my setup. I had to plug my amplifier into a speaker that I bought, and the speaker is connected to my laptop, which is generating tones. So on top of the speaker, I have, you can see on the left part of the frame, that black square tray sitting right on the cone of the speaker, and there's water in it. I have a ring light that's aimed at the water, and it's cycling through colors continuously. So my camera shoots through the ring light, and with my right hand I am oscillating the tone, the amplitude, oscillation, frequency by adjusting the hertz. And you can either have very subtle movement or you can make the water splash all over the room, and so you just have to find the sweet spot on that too. This is what it looks like out of focus. And this is the ring light, that arc of little lights, and there's the tray. I haven't done anything yet with the online tone generator. And here it is, it's starting to go. The idea of the class was you were supposed to get really symmetrical patterns, which I never got. They were always off. And I'm like, you know what? I'm a little off too, so that's just fine. So you can see all the color from the ring light is coming through there, which is so much fun. So I'm just clicking pictures, as fast as I can to get these different shapes, because each shape changes with the color, the amplitude, the volume. There's so many variables. Here's some tries I made that some are kind of interesting. Others didn't seem to work at all. I tried placing a rock, if you can see in the middle square, the Paul Lind square. And yeah, so I tried. This one reminds me of a hand. I really like the combination of the blurry hills and then the kind of sharpish lines running over the hills. It reminds me of a hand, but I called it neural pathways. And this one is just, you're just going into the vortex. What can I say? Whole different world. This one I call Purple Haze. And you can see how the tendrils of the sound waves are trying to reach homeostasis in some way. But I guess I'm not letting them do that. So I finally got this, is this a hexagon or an octagon? I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's an octagon. I found an octagon-shaped plastic tray. So I felt like that added some interest to the colors I was cycling through as I took these pictures. And now we're on to magnetic fluids. Our teacher actually told us you have to go out and buy a Ferrero Rocher box of chocolates. And I'm like, okay. He goes, that's the perfect size. So I had to eat all the chocolates, and then I took the lid off. And then what's involved with magnetic fluids is a lot of interesting things, mainly 3 things. We're using ferrofluid, which is iron oxide. It's black. And I'm using a rubidium magnet, which is the strongest magnet. I don't even want it in the same room with me. It's so strong. And if the two shall meet, it's chaos. I made the mistake of leaving the cap off the ferrofluid one night, had the rubidium magnet. They got a little too close. Boom! Black ferrofluid all over my kitchen. It was a total disaster. But that's what I love about experimental photography. You just never know what's going to happen. So you can see that tray is elevated above the tabletop. It's a very scientific setup, Dixie cups with painter's tape securing the tray onto the Dixie cups. It's elevated because I'm going to take that rubidium magnet and pass it under the tray, moving the entire time with my right hand, and my left hand is going to be taking the pictures. This was one of my first efforts. Our teacher just told us to put a few drops of ferrofluid in the center of the tray. So the gold around that circular image, that's the actual bottom of the tray. So when you move the magnet closer to the bottom of the tray, all of a sudden you'll see those spikes come out. And the further away you get, you'll see more of this kind of brain-looking neural pathway. I had to call this one Hallucination Island. I mean, it's just it's just so weird. And here again, you can see the bottom of the tray on the upper right, when it gives it some nice texture. And I just had the black ferrofluid. This was one of my first attempts, and I like how the patterns just kind of spread out. This one is a close-up of some of these bizarre spikes that just show up. And I'm adding food coloring, by the way. I'm adding red food coloring to this one, and a little bit of green in that one, and yellow. Yeah, it's interesting. The patterns are never the same, and that's what makes it so surprising and beautiful. Here I've added blue food coloring to the tray, and I decided to cover the whole tray with ferrofluid, so I would have a bigger object to work with and it would spread out more. So this is the beginning of that. And here's another close-up of these bizarre, it looks like the spikes are about to form, but I'm not close enough to the bottom of the tray for them to spike up. This one, I just love the chaos of this. Even with that big glob in the upper left, I just love how it's almost exploding in space. And this is a little closer up of a spiky one with these two weird air bubbles, but there's no bubble. It's like a crater in the middle of that thing. And I don't know what it's reflecting. I guess the bottom of the, I don't know. It's an unknown. Actually, I don't think I want to know. Here's a close-up of the spikes, even more extreme close-up that you can see. And here I decided, instead of shooting straight down at the ferrofluid tray, I would do it at an angle. And I liked the experiment that I did, but for some reason I never followed up with it, so I think I'm going to do more of that in the future. This one has been in a few exhibits already. It was at the Brand Library Works on Paper this year. No, last fall. And it was just in an exhibit in Sierra Madre called Unseen. It was all about experimental photography. And without intending to do so, this to me looks like a sunflower. And I had no clue. I didn't try to make it a sunflower. It just came out that way, and there's no way I could ever duplicate it. This is probably my favorite one of all the magnetic fluids, and for some reason, I liken this to like an Art Deco brooch that you'd wear on a beautiful evening dress. So I used a lot of food coloring in this one, and because the magnet is lower, you can see all these interesting brain-like cellular partitioning in the blue cyan area. This one and this one are going to be at Photo London next month. So I'm printing them 36 inches wide, both of them, and they're going to be mounted with dye bond. And I picked out the paper yesterday, Fuji Flex. It's really great for color. Oh, I didn't know I had more. Oh, this is cool. I love this one. Explosion. Uh-oh. Now it's not letting me go any further. I have a lot more in my stack. I don't know what happened. Thanks, you guys. Any questions?
Oh, that was great. Those are amazing.
Thank you.
Have you
done any video?
Yes, I have video of some of the processes. The one where I had the water tray on top of the speaker, I made videos of that.
Could you send us links to them?
Um, yeah, I could
Okay,
do that.
that would be nice. I'd like to see the process.
Yeah, yeah, it's really interesting
Thank
to see
you.
how
So
quickly everything changes. It's
let me
just,
ask how you learned all this and how long it took to learn it.
well, I studied at the School of Light at the Reef downtown LA. This is the culmination of 4 classes I took, and it was all in 2025. I started in January, and I think I took my last class. It ended at late August.
Well, they're beautiful images.
Thank you very much. I'll just cycle through them if you guys have any
Yeah,
questions.
that's fantastic. This one as well.
Look how different it looks shooting at it at a 45-degree angle, and this is straight on.
Yeah.
It's really interesting to me.
What kind of camera photography did you use to take the images?
Oh, just my old Nikon D810 and either a 60 millimeter or 100 millimeter lens, macro lenses.
Hmm.
So when it spikes up, that's three-dimensional?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. I mean, you can see it here, how three-dimensional it is.
And what is this process?
This is what my teacher called magnetic fluids, but what we're doing here is using a tray of ferrofluid, iron oxide,
Yeah,
and food coloring, drops of food coloring throughout, and then the magnet passing underneath the ferrofluid,
very cool.
which just creates infinitesimal patterns.
Yeah.
And how long did these take?
Oh, you know, I took hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of photos. Um, they don't take long. I mean, you get what you see. You see what you get. What you see is what you get. I
Yeah,
mean,
so
there's
these
not
are
any
all,
manipulation involved with these, you know, it's just all done by food coloring. And
and it's a digital process.
yes,
Yeah,
yeah, because there's no way you could do this analog, because think about a roll of film, 36
right,
exposures. I
right.
went through
Yeah,
36 in a minute or
right.
less. Yeah.
Yeah.
You do your
So,
post-processing in Photoshop?
Yes, I do.
Is there big changes between the raw image from the camera and the final
No,
image?
the only thing I did in Photoshop on these particular images was to get rid of any dust marks in the water because
Hmm.
they were distracting to me, and that's all I did.
And how often did you change your setup?
Oh gosh, I would say 6 to 8 times each session. Oh, and the other thing I forgot to tell you was that I had 2 studio lights. You need a lot of light to do this process, so I had 2 Profoto lights facing the tray, shooting down into the tray.
Okay. Yeah, it looks very even.
Yeah, amazingly.
Yeah.
And I experimented with inverting color in Photoshop. I don't think this is the original color. I shot so many of these, I can't even tell anymore. I think this was the original color that I used, and then I played with, you know, I have thousands of these.
Did you add water or anything else to the tray?
I just had ferrofluid and the food coloring. So I
Okay.
filled the tray was it's 12 by 12 inches. And I just had a very thin application of ferrofluid in the tray. As thin as I could get, because it's expensive, and after I had my kitchen accident, I had even less to work with.
So it's expendable. You use it up as you take the pictures.
Yeah.
But you can take a lot of pictures with
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Yeah,
You could just click away, just.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, that's just,
yeah.
I think, in one day. I don't know.
So these images are developing as you go. They keep changing, and then you keep shooting new images out of the
Yes,
same.
yes, absolutely, yeah. Every millisecond. I mean,
Yeah.
even if I try to have the magnet stable, I'm holding it, but even if I tried to keep it still with my hand, it picks up any vibration. Like my pulse will make the will make the
Yeah.
ferrofluid move.
Yeah. And this is sound.
So you don't use a tripod
Yes.
or other device to hold the magnet while you're doing this?
Ugh. It's hard. You have to keep your finger on the trigger, the whole time.
Well, that magnet is so strong you couldn't put a metal tripod near it.
Correct. Which I had. So I couldn't get closer than 2 feet away from my tripod. Yeah, I was very sensitive.
Wow.
This was the most complex setup. It drove me crazy, but Kelly was there to help me. She made sure the table didn't collapse. And yeah, that was cymatics. And this is my favorite process, I think, were lumens. Because nothing looks like it did when you start. And when you combine painting with developer fluid and cyanotype, lemon juice, some people use vodka, just anything to get the substrate a little different. And I believe those halos, the purple halo on the right, comes from a condensation from the plants and the fruit.
And this is done on photosensitive paper.
Correct. My favorite paper I found to use was expired Russian black and white paper from 1975. And you're like, how can you get color from black and white paper? I don't know how that works, but it did. And boy, those Russians, they're good for something, they can make good expired paper.
That's so interesting.
Is the rusting coated paper or is it fire-based?
What is it? It's matte. I had better luck with matte than pearlescent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
You can see the condensation around, especially in the right part of the diptych. The dark blobs are actually water drops.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're all so different.
That's what's so great about them. I just, my whole life as a photographer, I just look at something, take a picture, there it is. I know what I'm getting.
Mm-hmm.
But none of these processes did I have any control over. And at first it was anxiety producing, but the more I did it, the more thrilled I got when I had, stuff come out. I just had no idea it would look like that.
Mm-hmm.
Are there other people doing the same processes now in the area, or are you the
Oh,
only
sure.
one?
Yeah, lots of people well, I wouldn't say lots, but certainly in the fine art photography world, there are quite a few people doing it. I do it a little bit differently. Traditional lumens are very washed out color-wise, and I decided to crank the saturation in my color settings. And I like these a lot more. They're a lot more individualistic than traditional lumens. She always had to get in the pictures.
Did you think about having her add her fluids to your picture? Just being
Maybe I'll
silly.
try that. But here, this is the total mad scientist. I just literally, I didn't think about anything. I just snipped and put flowers and anything I could find around the flowers. And it was sort of like, sometimes I would just do it in the dark room, and just see what I would come up with.
No.
So that was lumens, and then these were click to add text. This is watergrams, which was I would say it's like my least favorite, because there wasn't a whole lot you could do. You could do the forced air in the water and get this kind of effect. You could sprinkle things on top of the water as you're moving the tray, or put a Pyrex bowl, and which was kind of cool because it forced the image to kind of rotate. It's hard to explain, but. And then this one is the mystery of all mysteries to me. It looks like it's coming out of a sci-fi movie. I don't know, it's just weird.
Or a petri dish.
Yeah. I did like the process of inverting. That was interesting to me. But yeah, I mean, that was the setup for watergrams. And that is the end of my story.